Dylan Butler. There he
Oh,
is. All right, so let me properly promote. So, you had last night. You had the New England Houston game because I saw the byline. First and foremost, my apologies for getting
well, yeah.
but and obviously looking at the comments from a perpetually cheerful Bruce Arena,
Yes.
he was not pleased with the input and the output of his side in a game that if they needed to keep pace, they needed to win. Had a lead, didn't keep pace, and then you just got to hear Bruce grumble. I think after the match, yeah.
And it was funny, John, because it wasn't a long grumble, but I feel like with Bruce Arena, it's it's the you get the most out of the 2 minutes and 30 seconds of his press conference, more than probably any other coach in the league. I would say so. He probably answered 3-4 questions, and when you look at his responses, is there really a reason to ask any more questions? I think he kind of covered it all. Put his whole team on blast. Brandon By on blast. Then apologize, not really apologize, but said, "Listen, if it's fair to Brandon, I probably could have made 8 or 9 subs at halftime." Really, the only one who escaped unscathed was Georgi Petrovic, who he
Yes.
said was outstanding, and he was. Everybody else was not, and the challenging part, to kind of take people into sort of how the sausage is made. The
There you go.
challenging part then for me was, what was the best quote for a headline, right? Was it Carlos Heel saying we're not a competitive team? Was it Carlos Heel saying we don't deserve to be in the playoffs? Was it Bruce Arena saying we deserve to lose? Like, there are so many to choose from that defeat. That certainly, when you look at the table and look at the numbers, appears to have buried the Revs a year after, setting the league record for points and winning the Shield.
Is Bruce done, do you think? Does he hang it up after this season? Because it just seems that he's perpetually frustrated, especially after the fall, I mean, in the sense of the table. I don't mean necessarily tripping down
Well,
a
and
flight of
and
stairs.
well, the team did, right? Literally, from from best to one of the worst. I think it's a good question. I think it's his decision to make, right? He's not going to be forced out. I don't think, at least I'd be surprised if that was the case. Um, I think he enjoys it in New England, in the Boston area. Clearly the Crafts have, they've built a pretty good training complex for him. He's excited about that. So I don't know. It's a good question. I think it's his decision to make. What I will say is that it appears, certainly, like a lot of the moves that he made to try to fill some holes in his roster just didn't pan out, right? Like, the Petrovic was amazing, right? Like, tremendous job there getting a goalkeeper who somehow equals the one that you had, who was the best in the league,
Mm-hmm.
if not maybe even arguably better. But I think every other move really didn't pan out for them, right? Sebastian Lletget didn't work out. Obviously, Omar Gonzalez and Josie Altidore didn't work out. And then even the moves from overseas, like, there's been a ton of injuries for those guys. So, like, it's hard to even say that any of those guys panned out in the right way.
When speaking about moves, as I transition to LAFC, when we looked at that match last night, I don't know how much of it you got to catch, maybe the greatest hits, considering you were locked into an incredibly insightful match with Houston and New England. But Adrian Heath seemed to put Timothy Ford on blast not once but twice.
Yeah.
A lot of folks think that Adrian Heath was correct in his assessment on the second yellow, even if the first one was a soft yellow and that second one's a yellow. You can't do like an oops, my bad, make good, and I won't, make a harsher yellow, a non-call. I guess two points. I guess that probably ends up going more than two when it comes to Minnesota and LAFC. Adrian Heath was right on, and I wonder if he's going to be getting a FedEx envelope, like they used to do in the National Football League. You get a FedEx envelope in your locker with the notification from the league. Does Adrian Heath get a FedEx envelope in his locker or an email?
Good question. My first thought was to say no. And you asked me the same question a few weeks back on Pat Noonan, and as far as I know, Pat Noonan didn't get.
Haven't heard anything. You're right.
Right. So and that was a case where I said I didn't think that he would, because I think it was clear that he was right. So I wonder if this is going to follow a similar path, although Heath has had a history, obviously, of criticizing officials. So I think there could be a little bit of a slap on the wrist.
Don't you do that.
But yeah, listen, it's to say that there's a different set of rules for LAFC than others, which kind of then harkens back to Ernst Tanner as well, alluding to something similar. That was certainly interesting. And actually, I think the most fun comment I think that he made, which has totally gone under the radar, was after the match. He was asked about the pitch, and then he grumbled, as an Adrian Heath would. The players today, they wear slippers. They don't wear real boots. Don't get me started on that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like, for an old, guy who played in the English league, when the English league,
back in my day.
Yeah, had what's his face? The guy from Liverpool who was the actor, right, going around running at people. You know who I'm talking about.
I do, and I know
Jones, right? Maybe someone on the Twitch pitch can help us out.
Yes, Twitch pitch, help us out. Liverpudlian actors.
Jones, I think, is the last name.
But it seems like that the empirical evidence, you can bring in your black and gold helicopters if you want, but it seems like there's another instance of protecting the shiny objects, when it comes to LAFC. Second question for you, having to do with LAFC. When it comes to Bale and Vela together, it seems like that Bale and Vela don't need to be together, because Gareth Bale and like I said, we've got Bam, who's watching us from Australia, as he always does every morning.
Vinny Jones, thank you.
When it comes to Bale and Vela, this is not a marriage that is turning out well right now.
No, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, the analogy I can make is like, I love tacos, right?
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I was going to say,
right?
Yeah.
But I also love pizza.
Yes.
They don't really go together, though, right? Like, I can enjoy a taco and I can enjoy pizza. I don't put tacos and pizza together. And it almost kind of feels like that's a little bit of what we have here. It's like two really good players who, in their own right, are very, very good, but they just don't seem to mesh. I don't know if it's a matter of their playing styles or not enough time together. Maybe more one than the other. But you're right. Like, and I think this is a little bit of the problem now, I think, for Cherundolo. Is it a good problem to have? I don't know. I mean, it's good to have very good players, right? But you want to get your best on the pitch in the biggest times of the season. And if, two of your highest paid players in those forward positions aren't on the same page, like, that's going to be hard, right? Like, when it's a playoff game, you're not going to tell me that Gareth Bale's not going to start the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so therein lies the problem, I think, for LAFC.
So then, if taco and pizza are up front, what would you discuss at the back? What kind of mix are we talking about here with Chiellini, who is still acclimating, which you really don't need to have at this point of the season? But Chiellini is another meal on the menu that is turning into an acquired taste for LAFC right now.
Yeah, so what would he be like? Would he be like almost like that octopus, or like the like what's an Italian meal that maybe some don't love? Hey,
Mm,
listen, I think he's been brought here for the playoffs, for those big moments, for his experience in those moments. So I think they're going to ride or die with him, to be honest.
okay.
In the back, I don't. Um, I think the bigger question is the first one that we addressed, is just what do you do with that attacking line, and seemingly the answer just is like, unless you really get like crazy with it, you've got to start those guys, right? It's got to be those guys, and Arango,
Yeah.
and you just roll the dice, and you just hope that on the day, the individual talent shines through. But yeah, I think the reason you brought a Chiellini in was, one, to mentor your younger center backs, and for what he can bring to the room as just the guy who's played in the biggest games, but because he's played in the biggest games, that the postseason should, in theory, fit him well. So
Emilio on the Twitch pitch is suggesting perhaps that Chiellini is calamari.
yeah, but is it like like I feel like everyone loves fried calamari. I mean, I don't know. Not
I
everybody.
I am not a calamari person at all.
Really?
No, I am pasta. Give me pasta and some nice chicken. Maybe I am so basic and absolutely the most vanilla lover of Italian food. It's like,
But I
look,
feel like you can get into fried calamari only because it's fried. Like, who loves anything fried is good.
I can't. No, just
But
the
I
I just
but I wonder with Amelia, I wonder if it's more like the grilled calamari, because that's a little bit more of a tougher thing to get into.
I can't. I just the whole idea of calamari being calamari. I can't do octopus. I can't do squid. Just that premise of like, oh great, there's an octopus staring at me and there's some squid there. I can't go there. No chance.
I hear
Honestly, it is pasta. It is chicken. Give me the good carb load. Maybe with some tremendous meat. I mean, literally, we there's a restaurant here in town, or the next city over. Literally, we have them deliver all the time, and the portions are like astronomical. The
Mm.
bowls you get are about this big. So no, I can't do fancy, but I know that Emilio says grilled works or in sauce.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a good call.
And the soccer for good OG, she says, I have zero sense of adventure when it comes to food. I will stipulate to that. I will absolutely stipulate to I have no sense of adventure when it comes to food. But this is what happens when Dylan Butler visits us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We go completely off the rails. I mean,
I had a conch fritter for the first time the other day.
what? Whoa,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, a conch fritter.
Whoa.
We did on one of our high school broadcasts, we did a food review of DJ's Clam Shack. It's originated in Key West. They have a couple on Long Island. So we did a few different things. We had like the lobster roll,
Okay.
a few other things. But yeah, conch fritter was the first time I had one of those.
Okay. Bam, by the way, down in Australia says, if you want something great to eat, have some kangaroo. I don't know if he's serious or not.
Yeah, that's a little past my. I'm more adventurous than you, John, for sure. But that's
Uh-huh.
a little bit too adventurous for me.
Yeah. Bam mentioned, since he has his LAFC podcast down under, he says Bale is the sub for when Vela comes off, Bawanga or Opoku starts, and Chicho starts. That's what he thinks up top.
I agree. I don't know. That's a tough sell for me in the playoffs.
Well,
I
I was
mean,
going to say,
for them at least, right? Like I hear you, but I don't know if you spend that kind of money and brought in a guy like that to have him come off the bench.
right. Yeah, we got off the rails this morning, and there is a scarf off your left shoulder.
Left shoulder.
And your left shoulder, not our left shoulder, but your physical left shoulder. There is a scarf, the blue one, that is next to the red one.
There it is.
And there it is. And we discussed the comments of the new chairman wanting an all-star game and trying to find other ways to generate revenue in the Premier League. And the manager for the red scarf team next to your blue scarf basically laughed at him after being initially told, no, it was not a joke. that was brought up at the SALT conference by Todd Bowley about the idea of having possibly an all-star game and relegation playoffs in the Premier League over at the Javits Center. I thought that was interesting. Todd Bowley is not a poor man, and you don't make money without investments and thinking outside the box. And Todd Bowley certainly did that at the Javits Center yesterday.
And listen, this is what you're going to get with more and more American investors in the English Premier League. You're going to get more and more American sports type of ideas, right? Like, and that's one of them. And look, I'm not we spoke about this before. I'm not the biggest fan of all-star games in general. And I think MLS has found a way to make it work. Or they did, at least. Now going forward is the big question with the expanded Leagues Cup. But I thought when you put the best of one league against the best of another rival league, I think that worked. And I think you get competitive matches. But I don't know. I don't see. I hadn't heard what they proposed it to look like.
North versus South is what Bowley was looking at.
No, it's not going to work.
Because you'd have Manchester City and Manchester United teammates. Unless the park is the dividing line, you would have Liverpool and Everton. You'd have Merseyside teammates. All of these derbies, you'd have them on the same sides. But that's what the initial thought was: North versus South.
But then how would that be competitive?
Yeah.
Like, listen, I would be more of a fan of a skills competition of some sort, because that's like super fun to watch, right? Like to see a Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Like do some skills, or other guys, accurate shot, hardest shot, like those things that we saw in the skills competition here. I would be more a fan of that than the actual game, because I don't, why would a guy making $100 million a year or whatever it is, like,
why is he going to bust his ass in an all-star? I mean, Klopp mentioned the schedule's already too clogged. Yes, it is.
That's true too. And there's way too many games, right? Like Liverpool is probably playing 112 games in a season, something to that effect these days.
Yeah. And so, you've got that notion. And then what else did Klopp say? Klopp mentioned, let me go to the quotes here really quickly. Let's see. How did he lay it out? He said, concept cheapens the sport by creating a meaningless, inauthentic game, mentioning in the press conference, asking if Bowley wants to bring in the Harlem Globetrotters and make them play against a football team. And then, so, and his third point was that no one wants to see an all-star game, let alone North versus South.
So there's no, and you can't even bring the MLS concept in, because, like, what would you have, like, England against Germany? Who cares?
No,
right?
I don't care. I legitimately do not care. And I mentioned in the first hour that I was at Miller Park covering that all-star game that sent the all-star game in Major League Baseball careening into the void with the draw. I mentioned draw. Tie. That's another thing. With all of the stuff that I've been doing in soccer these days, it's like I'm having conversations with football coaches and I'm asking them to find, what do you think about your next match? What do you think about your next fixture? I'm using those with high school football coaches now. So that shows you how much soccer I've got in my brain these days. But, so all-star games to me mean absolutely nothing. They mean less than nothing to me. But, yeah, Todd Bowley, I don't think that's going to be the last time he's going to volunteer an idea. But I think 50% of the teams in the Premier League have some kind of American investment now.
Yeah, right.
So you're seeing these kinds of ideas coming through when it comes to the Premier League. Okay, so you've got 10 minutes. You've got a hard out at 10:30 because you've got to actually talk to people and do interviews and things.
Yeah, two football games myself this weekend. So
and then in my catching up with coaches actually said 11:00, and so that's why when you go, I'll go for another 15 minutes and preview the day, and then get into my second Zoom with a coach I haven't talked to yet this year. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Those high school Zoom meetings were during football season, right here during Wall Pass Wednesday. When you look at let's go ahead and look at the future. This weekend, we've got Hudson River. We're
skipping right over the biggest match of the day, Campeones Cup.
That's true. Well, okay, so Campeones Cup, Atlas and NYC. Atlas and NYC. Jarrett was mentioning this in hour number one, with the idea that Campeones Cup. It's a great idea, fantastic idea. Love to see Liga MX teams going up against teams in Major League Soccer. But then, you schedule it the year before, and then you look at where things are, and you're looking at NYC, and NYC is playing cliffhanger on The Price is Right, and they're not hanging on. It's like somebody just overbid, and you're about to see the guy go over the cliff. And Atlas has lost 5 in a row, and I think they've gotten rid of their coach. This was great when you came up with it on paper, but right now the teams are not showing up the way that they thought.
Well, one thing that is true, I guess, for both tonight is this is the opportunity for the reset button, right?
Okay.
Certainly for NYCFC, like I again in my usage of analogies, they're stuck on the major Deegan there on the side of the road, and their engine's turning over. They need AAA.
Yes.
They need to get that jump for their engine so they can get going. And perhaps that's what this does. You were just alluding to it before that. The derbies coming up on the weekends at Yankee Stadium. They're obviously trending the wrong way right now at the worst time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps this match actually comes at a great time, right? Like a chance. For whatever you might say about it, there is an actual trophy on the line. So a chance to sort of ramp it up playoff style now. And obviously the roll of the dice of that is that you've got to win then, right? Like, so if you now win this match, you get that confidence going again. And perhaps it's the perfect sort of ramp into the derby on the weekend.
All right. And so
I'll be there as well in the Bronx tonight. That'll be fun.
So, by the way, folks in the Twitch pitch, let's see, once again, Soccer for Good OG said that you were on Sirius XMFC on her drive down to Central Florida. One of the best MLS commentators, always even-handed and honest.
That's me?
Yeah, it's you. That's you.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
So there you go. So yeah, Soccer for Good OG is part of Soccer. One of the originals of Soccer in the Streets here in the Atlanta area.
Very kind. I appreciate that.
So yes, very, very cool to get that kind of compliment. So you've got the derby.
Yeah.
You got Atlanta and Philly. You've got Grumbling Bruce Arena in Montreal, Orlando City and Toronto.
Montreal, by the way, last night locked up a home bid.
They did.
Game. So that was pretty big for them.
No doubt, with the 5 matches. And like I said, I'm glad that you didn't get stuck with Miami and Crew.
Yeah, I was too. We said on our Slack channel that I was mercifully subbed out to save my legs for today with Campeones coming up as well. So save me for that one. We need fresh legs for Campeones. But I will. Here's a question for you and or the folks at the Twitch pitch.
Yeah.
The bell in Montreal, right?
Oh, love it.
You ring it after the goals. It seems very arbitrary, though, the number of rings. Is it
true?
It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the number of goals. I didn't time it. I don't know if it's like a minute of a bell or a minute and a half. I don't know. It just seems like until the guy gets tired and then he just stops.
Yes, that to me, it's almost like the Texas Tech ringing of the bell on the sidelines as well. It's like there's no set number of rings attached to it. There's no set part of tolling when it comes to the bell at Stade Saputo. I love it as a part of their fabric.
Yes.
But I have no clue. Yeah, so if anyone who is a fan of CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, hopefully, maybe, can answer the tolling parameters for the Bell at Stade Saputo. We will put that out there. And if anybody on the Twitch pitch knows, fantastic. I'd love to know. Or is it just random until dude gets lactic acid to the point when he gets tired? That's the biggest question. That's a hell of a question this morning.
Are you a poutine guy, by the way?
No, I am a Swiss chalet. I'm a Swiss chalet guy, but I'm not a poutine guy. I mean, I fell in love with Swiss chalet at Pearson International Airport. So, I mean, so I for me, just give me my fries with maybe some ketchup. But other than that, maybe if there was something exotic, can you get like barbecue on top of it as a part of barbecue on top of fries? Does that count as like
in Montreal?
Yeah, as a poutine-ish kind of a thing?
Probably not.
Barbecue sauce or something like that, like Heinz 57. Let's see. Other matches on the weekend. We've got Austin and Nashville.
Yeah.
That one is relatively large. Relatively large at Q2 with that one. You look at Austin, do you have as much concern about them as you do about LAFC?
Yeah, I think so, right? Because LAFC, they're similar in that LAFC seemingly had the Shield on lock. The same was true of the second spot in the West, right? That seemed to be Austin's. And they were even making a little bit of that push. When LAFC started to struggle a little bit before Austin did. And when Austin had that big win over LAFC, you started thinking, well, maybe they can make that Shield run. Obviously, they didn't. And now they've got Dallas breathing down their neck. So definitely a concern there for Austin as well.
All right. I know you got 3 minutes, so we're going to play CFL, 3-minute warning. Atlanta and Orlando tonight. What do you think?
Is that in Orlando?
Yes, it is in Orlando. It is
a 2.5 hour delay, no doubt. What is with look? I get it. I get the weather in South Florida is what it is, especially in the summer. But I feel like this year there's been more delays than games that have gone on as scheduled in Florida. It's incredible.
I'm right there with you. I mean, Orlando last time out. You want to talk hangover from Lamar U.S. Open Cup?
And they were on Church Street for a while. That one.
And maybe they went to Applebee's too.
Half price apps.
No doubt. And so you wonder how much of the hangover is there for Orlando. Atlanta last time out put up a 4 spot on Toronto. Yes, Toronto was missing Mavinga, Osorio, and Insigne. And
they were really missing Mavinga, I would say.
Yeah. So missing Insigne and Osorio, and the defense was shown for what it has been pretty much all season long. But Atlanta United put up 4 last time. They're going to take that offense down to Orlando City to take on.
Huge for Atlanta, no doubt.
Yeah, so we'll see where they are mathematically. So we will catch up with you next week because you got to bail and talk to high school coaches.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, real quick, what do you do? What are you writing on at OSDB and MLS Soccer before you go?
Well, Campeones tonight, obviously, right? So we'll have that on MLSsoccer.com, and then I'll have. I just did a piece on OSDB Sports about the historic CBA for the women's and men's national teams, and then this week coming up, I'm going to break down the announcement, which should pop, I think, in about 30 minutes, right, for Berhalter. I'm going to break down maybe who has the most to gain from the September window. Again, the starting 9 is intriguing. Maybe who will partner with the Walker Zimmerman in the back. A lot of intriguing questions, I think, coming up from the national team. So I'll dive into a few of those on Monday.
All right, get out of here. We'll see you next week.
All right, buddy.